Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Ron from International Trade Council. So, as you see on the screen, our webinar for today is Drive Sales with Digital Marketing. Our speaker is Mr. Peter Dickinson, founder and managing director of KUB Limited. He worked with over 500 companies as a business and digital coach over the last 20 years. This experience has given him unprecedented access to the daily challenges faced by entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized business owners. An MBA through the Open University has provided an excellent process for investigating these challenges. Peter has gained a good understanding of many markets and is often able to take good ideas from one industry and apply them in another. The MBA and extensive practical experience working at board level means that Peter can bring a lot structured practical thinking that works. And for this webinar, you will see digital marketing as a system and not a series of one-off campaigns. Ensure your marketing addresses all stages of the buying journey. Ensure you are clear on how you will convert your visitors to action. Have clear goals and objectives and plan for your marketing. Break longer-term objectives into 90-day achievable actions and so improve through marginal gains. And lastly, put in place metrics and regularly review them to ensure you develop what is working and what it isn't. So just to explain some housekeeping, he will going to start the presentation. And if you have any question, just please type in your question on the comment section and he will be able to answer the questions after the presentation. You won't be able to allow everyone to grab the mic because this will be a webinar and questions will need to be addressed or will need to be typed in using the comment section and he will answer it afterwards. So without any further ado, I'll give stage right now to the speaker so he can start the presentation. Go ahead, sir.
Brilliant. Hi, guys. Welcome to Drive Sales with Digital Marketing. Ron, is this coming through okay? Can you hear me okay?
Can you type in yes on the comment section if you can hear him? Just to make sure that the audio is clear. Okay. Yeah, I think everyone can hear you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. I've never run anything through Run the World before, so slightly different experience. Normally I have the chat window open, I can see chat and so forth, but unfortunately PowerPoint sort of kills the screen. So I look forward to seeing you all during the presentation. Ron's going to keep an eye on the chat for questions. So if you do have any, please let him know and we will address them at the end.
Yes, I will.
So everything that Ron said, I've been working with technology since 1984 and got 30,000 connections on LinkedIn, probably one of the first million users. So I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I won't repeat the rest of it because Ron's done an excellent intro there. So what we will be covering today, Ron sort of talked you through some of it, but basically we're going to be looking at marketing as a system. It's really important these days that you don't see it as a series of one-off campaigns, and I'll be explaining why. And it's about providing the right information at each stage of that customer journey, and making sure you're crystal clear on what you're looking for your visitor to do. And then we're looking at what measure gets done. So we're looking at the metrics you can use to drive the performance of your business. So first off is what is digital marketing? We're going to look at what are the components. And I have to say, we've been doing workshops and presentations now for a sort of good solid 6 years. And prior to that, during sort of one-off presentations and things. And I was doing presentations on the year 2000 in 1999 when we were building up to that date. We certainly had to do a lot of work to fix systems. but also doing things about the internet, what you could and couldn't do on the internet. And it's interesting how our lives have been sucked into this sort of virtual space. So, what is digital marketing? You know, you've probably heard of people talking about social media, you've heard talking about websites, maybe LinkedIn, email, and so forth. And what you see on the screen now is actually still only a subsection or part of the bigger mix of what digital marketing is. I had to be quite ruthless in what I put on this screen, and I'm sure I left off some really key things. But if you look around that screen, I'm going to read them all out. Hopefully you'll understand most of them. We'll be talking about quite a few later on. Well, these are all the sort of key components of kind of any sort of marketing campaign. And I know we as an agency, because we do the coaching and the training, but we also do implementation. We work now with clients all around the world. And, you know, we have had to develop all the skills and the tech and find the right technology to do all of this stuff, and there's more outside of that. I think people sometimes think, you know, it's just a few bits, but it isn't. So if we now look at the system, because it has to be a system. Each part relies on another part. So if we start at the top of the section with the products and services, you know, that's your core. That's the starting point of what you've got to get out in the marketplace. And from that, you should be able to identify all the sort of keywords that relate to those products and services. And generally, that's how, you know, we start. We use a range of tools like SEMrush, but there's a great tool by Neil Patel called Uber Suggest, which is it's free, and there is a sort of, even the paid for version is quite low cost. So there's no excuse. There are tools out there to help you understand what people are actually searching for, not what you think they're searching for, but what they're actually searching for. And there's a big difference sometimes. Once you understand what people are looking for, whether it's a hashtag on Instagram, or whether it's you know, a keyword on a hashtag on LinkedIn, or a keyword on Google or Bing or so forth, you can then start writing content that relates to that. You know, and that content could be you know, articles or blogs, as they're traditionally called. You know, quite long articles that you use that appear high up in the search engines, or it could be the video type of content you want to put up, or images and so forth. You then got that then allows you to create content for social media, and obviously you're going to have social media plans, and you know, and there'll be some social media that be suitable for business, some suitable for consumers. Now, but that's constantly changing. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of Snapchat, how that was going to be the next big thing, and then disappeared without a trace. Well, as far as commercial people are concerned, I do think the new thing on the kid on the block is TikTok. We're looking at how we can do TikTok videos for clients. It's not that easy because you need actors and so forth. And we've been trawling Fiverr for and experimented with a few people, but it's not as easy as say we do stuff for social media and Instagram and social and Facebook and so forth. We then have at the core of it the website. This is the only platform you actually have control over. It's the only thing you own. And if you're any size of business, you need to be on a WordPress platform, not Wix or Squarespace or any of these others. Those are great for beginners, fantastic for startup companies. But if you're serious about growing your business, it has to be WordPress, and then you can build on that. And I know there's things like Drupal and so forth and things like that, and maybe being a little bit controversial, but we can do so much in WordPress. We're very much a believer in no code or low code environments, so that when we develop a website, we'll wireframe it. That's make it, what it's going to look like in something like Adobe XD or Figma. But then we'll build it in Elementor on top of WordPress. And we can build custom sites really fast and cost effectively and robust. It means we can update them and so forth. So, make sure that you have got control of your website. Do not let your developer own the domain. They can host it, that's fine, but you make sure you control that domain. And then we have search engine optimization, that's getting found in Google. And then you've got LinkedIn lead generation. So you've got the social media feeding into what you're doing. If you're contacting people and so forth, connecting with them on LinkedIn, it can be a very effective platform if you use that well. And then with video marketing, we're doing a lot. We have an in-house videographer, and a lot of stuff is now video based. And marketing automation, it's not a question of just sending out an email. You need to send a series of emails out, but based on what that person has said. And then we'll be looking at the analysis. So what does that look like in practice? Well, I'm a big fan of Creately. Hopefully you can just see it in the top there, creatley.com. Brilliant tool. We've got the paid for version, but the free version is excellent. It's just you can't do much with it, but we've got hundreds now of these. I'll do an eco map of your digital marketing. We find it a lot easier for people to see how everything's interconnected. And it's frightening, actually, how complex these things can range, even for a reasonably small company. So the next thing on the list is omnichannel. Being able to, you need to be able to communicate on a number of channels. It's not just a question of, I don't know about your phone, but my phone barely rings. The last person I called was Ron, checking that everything we were okay for today. Very few people use the phone, especially in the UK. We do a lot of work over web chat. I know that people use Slack, but we're not huge fans of Slack because we're asking customers to learn another platform. There's live chat or web chat. I prefer web chat, but you connect it with a system like Intercom, and your business is running 24/7. And that's what people expect. They expect to be able to, contact you at late evening. And if you're working around the world, well, that could be their working day, and they expect answers. And then you've got a lot more people developing apps, or you've got these sort of hybrid apps which which are basically fancy websites with functionality that appear like an app on the phone. Obviously, through your contact forms on the website and so forth, and social media. You've got to be ready. You've got to be able to support these channels. Okay, so we're going to look at understanding the customers. One of the biggest things I found when working with clients is that they don't really understand their customers. You've got to be, and if some of this stuff that I'm going to talk to you today was a bit pie in the sky even about 5 or 6 years ago, especially for small businesses, but it's not anymore. About 2 or 3 years ago, Facebook stopped organic search, organic reach. That is, you could put a post up on Facebook and expect people who didn't know to see it. That's no chance anymore. You need to use advertising. In order to use advertising, you've really got to understand your client. Otherwise, you will waste so much budget. So this slide is looking at, what segment are you looking at? What are the needs? What are the common needs? So if we think of a telecoms company, everybody knows a telecom company. They'll sell the data lines, they'll sell the phone service, they'll sell, voicemail, and they'll sell sort of add-ons like recording voice calls or something like that. So a lot of series of things. And those could be sold to anybody. But if you're going to be successful selling a telecoms business, selling telecoms, you need to actually think about the language that you're going to speak to. So you might be talking to law firms, you might be talking to medical, you might be talking to insurance companies, you might be talking to contact centres. And so it's really important, if you're selling to law firms, you've got to then, when you target them, you've got to speak their language. They talk about clients and billing. They don't talk about sales and customers. Whereas a contact center will be talking about revenue, and they'll be talking about customers. So it's about, the reason why you dig down is so that you can communicate, you can understand their problems. I'm going to explore that in a minute. You then say, well, okay, what are we going to pitch ourselves? Are we going to be high value? Are we going to be sort of middle value? Or are we going to be sell it pallet high and sell it cheap? What's the strategy? How are you going to position yourself, your brand? Are you going to be a quality brand, or are you going to be a discount brand? And then that then helps you formulate your marketing plan. And if you look on the net, you'll see lots of this diagram, the STP diagram, the S, T, and P diagram. Okay, so who makes the buying decision? And this is where we start to really dig down. In the old days, we used to sort of say to the client, right, imagine somebody sat in the chair, what are they wearing? What's their job title? What are their goals? What are their objectives? And then that evolved into this thing called a buyer persona. And where you look at, who are they? What are they trying to achieve? What are the things that's holding them back, and where would they like to go? And different. So a marketing manager might be different in each. Maybe be called a marketing manager, but they have completely different needs. And if you try and sell, if we tried to sell we're a small agent, we've got about 10 staff. With using remote teams as well, and so we're not a big company. We wouldn't approach the marketing department of a 200 to 2,000 employee business. That's not what we do. We work with tech high funded startups and local companies and smaller global companies, but nothing of these sorts of orders. So, because that's what we're geared up to, and we'll probably move up into this, but our language has changed. I've noticed, because we used to serve a lot of this, but we're working more with these guys. So you've got to think, you've got to have a really clear picture of who you're selling to, and we're going to dig into challenges and goals in a minute. So if you do a search on the internet, on Google, you'll see a thing called the empathy canvas. And it's all looking at, what tasks are they doing? So you start here. What are the tasks that they're trying to do? And we're going to go into an example in a minute. And then what are they influenced by? But more importantly, what are the pain? In the old days, we talked about selling features, attributes, benefits. So if I was selling you a pencil, I'd say this pencil's great because it can write and it can be rubbed out and so forth. Those are the benefits, but the features the attributes are that it's got the carbon in the middle of which can be easily erased, and then so the feature is the pencil lead or graphite as it is now, and that leads to the benefit that you can then write with it because it's got the wood surrounding the graphite, so the graphite doesn't break. These days, it's all about, why is that person still writing? Why are they writing? And understanding, because they want to communicate. Well, is that actually the best way to communicate? Writing with a pencil? Well, not actually. So they need to communicate faster. So a pencil's not fast enough. So what are the pain points? And then you look at what the overall goal is. And then, I don't know how you guys have been coping with COVID, but I know one of the issues that's certainly arisen in the UK is that a lot more people are feeling a lot more stressed and so forth. So so you've got to think about what the person's feeling as well. What are those pain points causing them? What is it that really matters to them? So we look at an example. So this is somebody where we're selling our marketing to. And so the task of of the individual we're selling to, the marketing person, the person who's got the marketing job, is to generate new inquiries, find new customers, be found when they're needed, engage with customers, etc. So those are the tasks. And their pain points are there's not enough inquiries, they don't understand it. We looked at that diagram, and that was just a small part of it. They lack the time, the money, technical and creative skills. It can be one of those or all of those. And their overall goals is they just want more inquiries. Huge amounts of frustration at using digital marketing because there is a lot of technical stuff to it. And if you don't understand it, it's difficult. It can be time pressured. If you get it wrong on social media, your social media can blow up with loads and loads of comments and so forth that could be damaging to your business. And then what's influencing them? Who else is trying to sell to them? So if you go to this link, http://bit.ly/buyer persona guidance, you can download a spreadsheet, which is what we use. We're about to launch an app, actually. In a few weeks' time, we'll be launching an app, which you'll be able to capture that all in that. It's in test at the moment. And then if you sit down and do this, and you may have to do two or three types of customers. If you've got more, then I would seriously look at your business model. Are you spread too thinly? Unless you're a big company. If you're a smaller company and you've got more than 3 of these, you're spread too thinly. All right. So we've got to think about the stages of the journey of the customer. So we're looking at the marketing funnel. Now, if you Google marketing funnel, you get a whole bunch of different interpretations of what that should be. This is my interpretation. It's linked with the one that Google shows. I like it. I like this one because in human stuff, which we still do, all digital doing is make what the humans do quicker, is the know, like, trust. And once somebody trusts you, then they'll buy from you. And that maps onto the funnel, which is raising awareness, acquiring some sort of connection, maybe an email or something, and then building that engagement, which then gets the trust. And at that point, you can convert. So if you've got an e-commerce, you think, well, how does that work on an e-commerce site? So if you think about an e-commerce site, you land on the site, and your first reactions are the bit about getting to know them. They've found you on Google, they've found in our shopping, or they've seen you on a Facebook advert and so forth, and so they're aware of you. And if in those few seconds, does your website say, "Hey, come and buy"? I'm a really safe place. I'm trustworthy. Does it do that? If it doesn't, then they're going to go off within nanoseconds. So the first stage is getting, is the site likable? And then it's acquisition. You've got to get that email address so that you can hook them into email automation and so forth. So that's the acquisition stage. And maybe you might have a great video. I mean, in the UK sites, AO.com, they sell washing machines and fridges and so forth. And I'm a bit of a geek, so I kind of like to suss things out before I buy it. But with things all online, how do you do that? Well, they put videos up of all their kit doing it, and with somebody doing a demo of that kit. So you can then go, oh, right, yes, that's exactly what I want, and then buy it. So it's getting that engagement. There's a web chat called Intercom, which you stick on the website, bottom right-hand corner. And there you can put in frequently asked questions, FAQs, which will then help answer the customer's questions if they've got any. So all the time you're pulling them down, but it's different. So here at awareness stage, you're looking at the different types of social media. And when you come down here, you're into systems like web chat and so forth. So what's the visitor behavior like? So at top of funnel, 75% of visitors is awareness. It's a funnel, so you're going to lose some people down en route as they decide that whatever you're doing is not for them and so forth. when to get to the middle of the funnel is so the top of the funnel said, what is it do I need? What problem am I trying to solve? And then once they're into the middle, into the funnel, they know what the solution is. They're just looking for, can you solve the problem? And then at the bottom, it's, well, why should I buy from you? And the traffic drop off is horrendous. So if you send 100 clicks through your shopping or your Google AdWords and so forth, only 2 to 3% are actually going to do something on your website. So if you've got 5,000 visitors, you're only going to get 50 odd or 100 people doing something on that site. So the numbers are quite frightening as to what you get through. So what are the resources? Well, there's different things at different stages of the saying. So you might have social media, you might have blogs, you might have video, you might have webinars like today. I don't know you guys, but hopefully over time we'll get to know each other. So and this is where somebody like myself, working with Ron, we can raise awareness of some of the things that we can do. And then you've got sort of more detailed white papers, getting a bit old hat now, but actual workshops where we've just launched a whole series of those free ones for people to attend. You might have conversations on LinkedIn and so forth, all part of that, them getting to know you, whether you can solve their problem or not. And then you're into web chat, live chat, email, phone calls. I need to update this slide. Skype. I think some people use it, but most people, I think, use Zoom or Teams. And then hopefully that drops out as orders, inquiries, or followers, and so forth. But you can see the different resources you're going to need at each stage. And most importantly is the metrics. What are you going to measure? We've got people reached, websites, visitors, and so forth. And you can see at each stage you've got a different set of metrics that need to be measured. So how does that look? Well, it ends up sort of, you probably start with your website, then you make sure you've got your content marketing sorted, so you're then writing articles, then you're optimizing those articles, which then leads to mobile marketing, making sure that the website works well on all spheres. Google measures your activity on whether it's going to work for mobile, not the other way around. Your email still works. We've just launched, to say, these free marketing workshops between 11 and 12 on Wednesdays, and we're using it, driving a lot of traffic with email. And then you've got the branding, social media, etc. So it's all part of a system. It's all part of a campaign. So again, we've so in reality mapped that process. What does your process look like for you? And I say we use creately.com for that. So years ago, 1920s in the film industry, they wrote the Rule of 7. The Rule of 7, that a prospect needs to hear your message at least 7 times before they take action. And this was developed, say, by the movie industry. So the Power of 7 works in digital. So you've got social media, you've got the website, and then you'll see the content of your website in Google. And if you're familiar with the rich snippets, you can get information on that right-hand panel if you've optimized the site correctly. You might do some advertising, some display advertising. You then might have a landing page on your website where they'll collect their email. You might approach them directly, maybe in Facebook or LinkedIn groups. Interestingly, LinkedIn groups, I think, is pretty much dead at the moment, although I think Microsoft will do something. And quite a lot of my tech support we do through Facebook groups, which is, I think fascinating. One of the things we've got to remember, though, that the customer journey is not a nice straight line. Hopefully they're making progression, but quite often, somebody might start looking at a problem and realize the problem they're trying to solve isn't the problem that they first initially thought they had. So they'll go off on a tangent and so forth. So it is a bit of a roller coaster, and you've got to make sure that whichever stage they're at, you can pick them up and you can help them. Okay, understanding your competition. There's a guy called Simon Sinek. I don't know whether you've heard of him, but he's written a book. Well, he wrote Start With Why, which is an excellent book. But he also wrote The Infinite Game, and in it talks about a worthy competitor. These are people. These are competitors who you can respect, not for copying. You should never copy anything. It should be your own stuff. Otherwise, you're a me too. And me too's in this world won't get anywhere. You've got to be able to stand out. You've got to understand how competitive your marketplace is. I mean, sometimes if you say it's selling telephones or IT or things like that, super competitive. But in some industries, I work with a big. It's like a big rubber extrusions for train buffers and things like that. Big, very heavy, what we call dark satanic mills that we have in or used to have in the northwest of the UK. And there was no competitors on the web. The competitors didn't have a website, so it was really easy. We just built a website and we gained an advantage. Do your customers find you or them, or did they find you? Which is nice, but most of the time we find them. So it's about where you put your resources. If people aren't searching for you, there's no point doing SEO. There's no point doing Google. And again, Uber Suggest will tell you what you can, what people are searching on. So you can do the desk research to find the stuff out, and then goes back to the rubber industry guys. How good are they at digital marketing? If they're not, then but that's getting harder and harder. Most people are getting better at it, but we do come across some atrocious websites sometimes. So that splits into inbound or reactive or outbound proactive. So for reactive, you've got the website there. It's got great content. When people land on it, it converts and so forth. You might use search engine marketing if people do actually search what you do. But if you're in a highly competitive marketplace, you've got to be proactive. You've got to use social media lead generation like LinkedIn. You've got to be really sharp with your marketing automation. You might be using Facebook or LinkedIn ads. You might be using remarketing to where the ads follow you, and you might be sort of reaching out to partnerships, people who you've got synergy with, who you can work with, who will bring some of their customers to you and your customers to them, and then you've got the sort of networking and so forth. And on the one of the key things I think most businesses need to Google My Business, and this is where Google will give you. Sort of if you type in your business plus your town name or where you're sitting, the name where you live, on the right hand side should appear your box, and you should have control over that box in Google My Business. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please research it. It's really important. Okay, so why is measuring digital marketing so important? Well, you've got to identify what's working. And more importantly, you've got to identify what's not working. And then you're looking for opportunities for improvement. There's no excuse. Google Analytics and Google Search Console are both free. There is a bit of technicality to them, but it's not massive. And you'll find somebody on Fiverr. If you don't know somebody yourself, there'll be somebody on Fiverr or Upwork or all of these things that can help you. And those are global platforms. So, there's help around the world to help you with this stuff. And you can see how you're performing against your competition, and you can see where you're leaking potential sales in your marketing. So you need to build a company dashboard. If you want this nice growing line up the chart, then you need which metrics are you going to measure. Okay, so. I'm sure you're all probably aware of this. Peter Drucker was one of the guys who coined it. What gets measured gets done, and that's why your speedo on your car is a big thing in the centre, because that's the thing that most of all you've got to control. Just going a bit of science now. When you measure workflow, you have a start, then you have some input, some data or some activity. It goes into a process, something, this input is transformed into an output, and then you measured. So this could be a LinkedIn, let's call it a Facebook advert. This is your design, your content, your ideas. That goes into a Facebook advert. The advert runs, and that produces some data. That produces hopefully inquiries. It gives you how many people have opened it, clicked through, etc. And so you then measure it. If you've got any sense, you'll look at those results and go, well, how can those be improved? And then that feeds back to the input. And you can see this here with this Facebook ad. And because digital is about numbers, pretty much everything can be measured. Sometimes you need to be a little bit clever on how you do it, but you can measure everything. But it's then, what do you measure? So something, again, you've all heard of, you can think of, what's drive the lead performance, predicts performance, and lag indicators measure the outcome of that performance. So it could be getting lots of likes and comments and shares on a social media post will then hopefully end up in conversations, end up in inquiries. If you get email opened and click-throughs, if the click-through is really good, then hopefully that will result in inquiries and sales. So these things a bit further down the line. So if you're not getting these, you won't get these. Okay, so that's why it's important to think about, what indicators that will predict this performance. Okay. So back to the digital marketing ecosystem. So each of these points will be places for you to measure. So you might be, in the articles, you might say, right, we're going to post 4 articles a month. We're going to do a couple of videos a month. We're going to do a podcast per month or week or whatever. We've got the AdWord campaigns. We've got the optimization. We use a tool called SEMrush, which measures how well we're performing when we're working on somebody's search engine optimization. We look at the articles. Are they well read? Which articles do people read? On the social media, how many likes, comments, shares. So what's your social selling index on LinkedIn? What's what reach are you getting? How many when you post onto Instagram, how many likes do you get? I hope you're getting the idea that everything on here can be measured. And yes, it can be a bit over the top. But if you don't measure it, you don't know what's working. So on the social marketing funnel, we're looking at scores around social media and video, and what we get here, in terms of traffic and so forth, will then predict, what traffic we get here on the website. Because if we're not getting activity at the top end with people visiting websites and so forth, we're not going to get many web chats. We're not going to capture many email addresses. And then on LinkedIn conversations, we may connect with 400 people. Are we going to reach out to 400 people? How many of those connect? Maybe 200, 50% is normal. And then how many conversations we're going to have. And I mean conversations. I hope you guys know that you should never, ever, ever pitch on LinkedIn. If you're just sending a message, hey, buy my wares, so LinkedIn messages are up here, and you've tried to do that. You've missed this bit out. So you must talk about selling to the pain. And then hopefully, if you've had a good conversation, you've asked them, what's causing the problem with the thing you're particularly interested in, and you dig for that pain, and then hopefully you'll end up with a conversation which will lead to an inquiry. Okay, so when you set an objective, make sure it's specific, measurable. It's going to say exactly what you're going to do. Are you going to measure website visitors? Can it be measured? Yes, you can measure website visitors with Google Analytics. Who's going to do it? Well, hopefully it'll be the web developer or the marketing coordinator. Can we achieve that? Yes, very easily. It's free. just 5 minutes of somebody's time, and therefore we can then set a time, say we want to increase visitors from 0 to 5,000 visitors in in a year, or whatever that target is. So when determining a metric, you need to have a vision. What's the goal of that metric? What's the objective? What's the specific time limited, and what are we going to measure it, and what target looks like? So explaining that a little bit more detail. So in here at the awareness stage, so this is the marketing funnel going this way. We've got awareness, attraction, etc., and then we've got the how you choose it. So at awareness stage, you might want to be seen as an expert. So therefore, the objective, in order to be seen as the objective, might be to grow your website visitors. It might be to do webinars. It might be to do podcasts. And then your KPI would be total website visitors, and then you can set a target. We're working with world-class experts on health and safety, and his measure is how many people can you get to a webinar. We had about 500 booked on a LinkedIn one the other day. At attraction stage, getting more people spending time viewing your content, increase. So the objective then would be to increase visitor on the website. So therefore, you put videos on in order to do that, because videos are great. You put an engaging video on, it'll increase the time on site quite considerably. And you can use the bounce rate. So if you've got a bounce rate of less than 50%, you're doing brilliantly. And so that's then the target. And you can see from the screen, I'm not going to go through the rest of them, but you get the idea that each stage you choose a metric that actually is going to give you, to help you drive the right activity. Because remember, what measure gets done. Now, one of the ways to, there's a guy called Dave Brailsford who helped the English women's cycling team do really well in Beijing, and his theory is of marginal gains. So your job is a continuous improvement. Find ways you can measure performance. Produce your your spreadsheet. And then, I would record high-level stuff in the spreadsheet and then look at the detail in the system, because there'd be a lot of data otherwise. And then review your performance. And then each month think, right, okay, what can I do better? So what do you want to achieve in the next 12 months? Going back to, there's a guy called Rockefeller, and he made quite a bit of money. And he had a goal, there's a guy called Vern Harnish who's documented all this stuff. But basically out of that, we talked about 90 days. So break down your year into quarters and think about all the big the projects you want to achieve in 12 months and break those down into quarters. And then agree who's going to drive the change. You can't drive change with a committee. Yes, you can have inclusion. Yes, you can be democratic, but somebody has to have ownership. And you can spread that ownership out. You might have somebody responsible for whatever, but they've got to own that, and they've got to be able to make changes. And one of the things we've found, actually, working with all the businesses over the years, is that the employees, your team, are quite happy if you decide as the managers what needs to happen, how you set the objectives, but get them fully involved in the how. Get them involved, and then create small wins to create sustainable change. And then if you do have successes, celebrate them. You've got to celebrate those times when you've had successes. And if you do them often, positive strokes, they're called, then people will feel a lot better. And then through these tough times that I'm sure everybody on this call has had, having those little celebrations, even if it's just a sort of, hey, thank you, or hey, that's a great job done, all helps. Now, I had imagined that I'd access to the chat, but I can't. So we're going to pick this up. We're going to pick the stuff up in questions. So I'm just going to finish on this slide. So over the years, I've got completely frustrated. If you go onto Amazon, there are not many books on actually There's lots of books on the bits and pieces of digital marketing, but nobody tells you actually how to join this stuff up. So this presentation today is a very short summary of the book. It's on Amazon, it's on Google Play, it's on quite a few platforms now. We're hoping to get a printed version available for sale through those channels, but obviously that's a bit more challenging. So it's certainly available on Amazon, Google Play, and a few other big platforms. 60,000 words. We've gone to a lot of trouble. And let's say if you type in drive sales or digital marketing on something like Amazon, we'll come up fairly near the top. And it's only a few quid, and it'll give you a lot more depth than I can in this presentation. So, Ron, do you want me to stop sharing the screen? How do you want to do it?
Yes, please. You can stop sharing the screen now. And we're open for questions. If you have any question, please feel free to type in your question on the comment section part of the screen. So while we're waiting for the question, I will encourage everyone we're going to do a group selfie for documentation purposes. If you have camera on you, you can do it. If not, that's fine. So give me 1 second. So I'll invite everyone. Okay. And while we're doing this, you can type in your question in the comment section, okay? All right, so I had invited everyone to take a photo. I'll give you guys until 2 minutes for this. I'll end the groupie in 2 minutes. All right, so we only have 8 people who take their photo. So I encourage everyone to please take their shot for documentation purposes. And please feel free to type in your question in the comment section part of the screen so we can open the table for Q&A.
Hi guys. Yeah, if you've got any questions, please stick them in comments and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yep.
I mean, how did you find the talk? Was that useful to you?
Yeah, any feedback or anything else you would like to ask, please feel free to do so. Okay, there's one question here, sir. Oh, there are 2.
Okay, so what we found with if we have a question, would like to know how to create an impactful Facebook ad for sustainable living. Sustainable living is a big subject, so I think we'll skip the actual sustainable bit. But in terms of making an impactful Facebook ad, you're looking at video. We do a lot now with video in terms of ads and so forth. It's pouring digital marketing everywhere. Is it not already too crowded? Is it a bubble? What's the shelf life for this method of marketing? Well, hopefully, I've given you the idea, Pauline, is that a process I've given you. And the book goes on about the process. So I've been working with digital marketing pretty much 1997, something like that. And it's certainly not a bubble. Our lives are becoming ever more ingrained into it. We're having to do, websites. The technology involved in the websites is quite incredible. Some of the things we need to think about now, because we have to embed videos, we have to embed podcasts, we have to embed accordions, sort of FAQs, so people can do that. The intercom systems can takes quite a bit of time to get all the frequently asked questions, so people can, so the systems can answer the answers. So, in terms of what's next, well, you've got augmented reality, you've got virtualization, and so forth. So it'll continue to evolve. We are continually learning. Every single member of my team has a personal development plan, and they're all having to learn. I mean, there's lots of changes since COVID. We only had 45 minutes, but I have a slide which talks about hybrid working, and where that 30% now, certainly in the UK, of all retail sales are actually online. Can you believe that? So our shops are becoming decimated because everybody's just going onto a platform. So no, it's not a bubble. It's here forever. I've been doing this 40 years of technology, and I've probably got another 10 years of working life left. And I just see it as more. Okay, Subrata, I'm coming from the healthcare. Second opinion related to cancer treatment. How can I drive my sales for the second opinion using digital marketing? So, as an expert in your field, you'll be doing, writing expert articles. Your posts will be all about, different aspects of cancer. How can people pick this? You've got to take an educational strategy, and you've got to be careful with certainly on Facebook and Google as to what you can actually advertise. So it might be you need a search engine approach, but it does depend on how competitive your market is. So I'd suggest you jump onto Uber Suggest and start typing in some of the things that people search to get to you. And if you're not sure what people search for you, then set up Google Search Console on your website, and then you'll see what sort of traffic comes through, and that will give you some answers. Mohammed, managing online directory in Pakistan. Some business owners, after listing business on my site, ask if they'll get customer response by listing on the site. Wow. Okay. It depends how good you are at search engine optimization. Google does not really like these days. It used to work really well. I set up a few directories, if you've got a site, you've got to think of how you're going to drive traffic to that site. If you've got, because one of the problems is, I don't know if you're aware, but Google looks at the context of a site, and so if you're selling, so the Subrata's, doing cancer treatment, so his site has to talk cancer treatment. That's all it can talk about. And then Google knows that he's the expert on cancer treatment. When you've got an online directory and when you've got a whole wide range of things, you're going to have to use different tools. Now, in the old days, we in the UK, we have a thing called Yell, which used to come up all the time. That was almost got a, we used to have big phone books, like this, piles of the damn things, which was Yellow Pages. Then it turned to Yellow.com. And for a few years, they did really well as a directory, but not anymore because all the specialists are up there. So you've got to think of external drivers like advertising, like Google AdWords and so forth, if you're going to drive business to your customers. So it's a tricky one. What I would probably do is with your directory is sort of try and build a community. There's an organisation in the UK that's done something similar. So it's like a directory, but they've made it a business community, and then people start doing business with each other. So run the world, Zoom conversations, Zoom meetings, or whatever, however best to do it, and get them sort of sharing each other's things and so forth. But you need a very clear strategy if you're going to, if part of you having the site is to generate responses for them. So what the future, Nanda, future holds for digital marketing? Okay, well, you're going to see a ton of AI, artificial intelligence. We're already working with UK firms on how to use into artificial intelligence. I'm working with, in the UK, we have the government, if you want to passport into the UK, if you've got a really brilliant, innovative idea and you want to start a business in the UK and you've got 50,000, you can actually come here and set up a business. So I actually work with a Chinese lady who's doing that, and I'm working a peer group of about 20. And it's interesting, about 5 of those are bringing AI technology in, and that's how they're creating that innovation. You're also going to see sort of more video. You're going to be seeing more immersive stuff. You think this is going around the world. This was undreamt of a few years ago. So you can imagine, we could be physically sort of as avatars sitting in rooms with each other soon. I've already seen it in a networking environment, but it doesn't work that well. But I think we're not far off actually almost feeling like you're in the same room with somebody. So it's really, to be honest, I'm really excited as to some of the things we want to do. So Subrata, I wanted to know what other strategies or tools that we should make, how to leads. Right. So when you're generating leads, as we talked about, depending on how competitive your marketplace is, one of the things, you're selling to businesses, then it's LinkedIn, but not pitching. It's got to be a conversation. It's got to be asking questions. That's business to business. If you're business to consumer, then you're probably selling products. Then you're looking at Google Shopping, and don't forget Google Shopping has got both sort of the free listings and the paid for listings. So don't think I've not got much money. So what you can do is you can get all your products on there, but then you just push the key ones that are going to generate the cash, because 80% of your revenue is going to come from 20% of your products. I don't know whether you're aware of that, but that's a sort of common stat. Okay, yeah. Just see if there's any more questions. Have I answered everybody's?
Yep, I think that all the question has been answered. Would that be okay, sir, if you provide your contact information in case that they would like to reach you for questions?
Yeah, sure. What do you want? Is everybody?
Maybe you can type in your email or any contact information in the chat box so they can copy it. And also, guys, if you missed to get his contact information, please feel free to email me or Onyx. We will be glad to send you his contact information if you have more questions.
Okay. Oops. Keyboard has gone to sleep.
Yes, Pauline said that if you can share your LinkedIn ID as well.
Yeah. So sorry, just put the wrong email in. So, 2 seconds.
Yeah. So he will be going to entertain other questions, through him, as we only have 1 hour allocated for this webinar. The topic is very interesting. The interaction is really good. So if you guys have more questions, please feel free to email him directly. That's the email address. You can copy the email address, or you can just send me an email, and I will introduce you to Mr. Dickinson via email as well.
Just give me
So
2 seconds, Ron.
yep, go ahead.
And there's the LinkedIn profile. And
Oh,
happy to connect in with any of you guys. Just please add a personal note, because I do get a lot of connection requests, and say, I was on the, just put a little note, I was on the webinar with Ron and with the International Trade Council, and then I'll know that you've been on the webinar, and I'll be very happy to connect with you.
All right, sure, perfect. All right, so again, guys, thank you so much for your time today. I still have a few questions here, sir. Maybe you can get that question, and then maybe you can answer that one by one with Mr. Sobrata. So, Mr. Sobrata, please email him so you can ask him more questions, or maybe you can have more conversation for him via Zoom or it depends on your schedule, as we only have 1 hour for this webinar. But thank you so much, guys, for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, before we end this, can you, sir, anything else, any final words with our attendees that you would like to share before we end the webinar? Mr. Dickinson, anything else that you would like to add before we end it? Just a final words from them for them?
No, thank you very much for the opportunity to have a chat with you. Say I'm on email or LinkedIn if you want to ask me any further questions, because I can see we've run out of time. So thank you very much for the opportunity. All
right, thank you guys for your time today, and looking forward for more webinars in the future. Have a good day, sir.
Cheers, guys. Bye. See you later.